want to take you back to that breaking news situation. A barricade situation in Johnston County is over, and it ended in tragedy.
Julian, tragedy is right. We've just learned from deputies in the last 5 minutes or so that they believe that this appears to be a murder-suicide situation.
On a quiet Saturday night in March 2025, a 911 dispatcher in Johnston County, North Carolina, received what would become one of the most chilling calls of their career. The caller hung up immediately. When they called back, a man answered, claiming he never made the call. But in the background, a woman's desperate voice could be heard pleading for help. Teresa Adams Pugh. Minutes later, gunshots echoed through a home on Cheney Drive in Garner, North Carolina. By the time first responders arrived, both Teresa Adams Pugh and her husband Christopher Pugh were dead. What appeared to be a loving marriage of over 20 years had ended in unthinkable violence, leaving an entire family searching for answers that may never come. This is the tragic story of Teresa Adams Pugh. Welcome to True Crime Red Flag, where we examine the warning signs that often hide in plain sight. I'm your host, and today we're diving deep into a case that shocked an entire community precisely because there seemed to be no red flags at all. If you're passionate about understanding the complexities of true crime and the hidden dynamics that can lead to tragedy, make sure to hit that subscribe button and ring the notification bell. We upload new cases every week, and your support helps us continue bringing you these important stories. Now, let's get into today's case. Teresa Adams Pugh was the heart and soul of her family. At 54 years old, she had built a life filled with love, laughter, and an extended family that looked up to her as their guiding light. Her family described her as fun-loving and the life of our family party, a woman whose presence could brighten any room and whose absence would leave an irreplaceable void.
Hey y'all, so I just pulled up at the electrolysis. So if you see some hair, your girl about to go take care of it. But I wanted to come on and do a PSA. This is going to be quick. And this is for 50, I'm going to say from 50 all the way to 100. Your age does not guarantee you respect, loyalty, all these things. I feel like a lot of times when people get older, you automatically expect to be able to talk trash to people. They don't say nothing back to you. You expect to be able to disrespect people. They don't say anything back to you. Let me tell you. Let me tell you this. I got to go in here right quick. But I just want to say, when you get a certain age as the matriarch or, whatever of your family, I'm talking to you men too, not just the women. You cannot stay in a bunch of mess all the time. You cannot disrespect people. You cannot be the author of confusion and expect people to, just because of your age, treat you like you're up on a pedestal. Oftentimes, younger people will mimic what they see you do because of your age.
Beyond her role as a family matriarch, Teresa had established herself as a fashion vlogger, sharing her passion for style and beauty with an online community that had come to know and love her vibrant personality. Her vlogs showcase not just fashion tips and trends, but glimpses into her life as a devoted wife, mother, and grandmother. Through her videos, Teresa connected with viewers who appreciated her authentic approach to lifestyle content and her genuine enthusiasm for helping others look and feel their best. Teresa was a devoted mother to 4 children and a proud grandmother to 14 grandchildren. Her role as matriarch wasn't just a title, it was a calling she embraced wholeheartedly. She took immense pride in watching her family grow and succeed, celebrating each milestone as if it were her own achievement. Teresa's cousin, Josette Battlegoings, maintained a close relationship with her through social media, a modern way of keeping family bonds strong across distances. In their online interactions, Teresa consistently shared positive moments and loving posts about her husband and family life. These posts painted the picture of a woman who had found happiness and contentment in her domestic life. The Spring Creek Estates community in Garner, where Teresa lived, knew her as a friendly neighbor and a devoted family woman. She was the type of person who contributed to the quiet suburban atmosphere that made the neighborhood feel safe and welcoming. Her presence in the community was steady and reassuring, making what would eventually happen all the more shocking to those who knew her. Christopher Pugh and Teresa Adams Pugh had been married for over 20 years, a relationship that by all external appearances represented stability and mutual devotion. At 53, Christopher had built a successful construction and real estate business as the president and owner of CB Pugh Enterprises, LLC, which operated under the name Pugh Builders, providing financial stability for the family, while Teresa pursued her passion for fashion vlogging and content creation, CB Pugh Enterprises was a design-build construction company, specializing in building and rehabilitation of custom homes. Based in Garner, North Carolina, Christopher operated as a licensed general contractor with 15 years of experience in the single-family housing construction business. His company focused on luxury custom homes and worked throughout North Carolina, South Carolina, and Tennessee, building homes designed to last over 100 years. Their professional lives seemed to complement each other perfectly. Christopher's expertise in custom home construction and real estate development provided the foundation for Teresa to explore her creative interests in fashion and lifestyle content. As the owner of a successful construction company, Christopher understood market trends, investment strategies, and the importance of building for the future, skills that likely contributed to the couple's apparent financial stability. Christopher was described by family members as a man who adored his wife, someone who would give Teresa anything she wanted or needed. His success with CB Pugh Enterprises and Pugh Builders may have enabled him to be generous with Teresa, supporting her vlogging endeavors and ensuring she had the resources to create the content she loved. The company's focus on luxury custom homes suggested Christopher was doing well financially, which aligned with the couple's comfortable lifestyle in the Spring Creek Estates neighborhood. Their relationship seemed to embody the kind of long-term partnership that many couples aspire to achieve. After 2 decades of marriage, they had weathered whatever storms typically challenge couples and appeared to have found their rhythm. Family members consistently observed what seemed to be genuine affection between the couple, and Teresa's social media presence reflected this happiness. Teresa's fashion vlogs occasionally featured glimpses of their home life, and viewers never saw any signs of discord or unhappiness. Her authentic personality came through in her videos, and those who followed her content saw a woman who seemed genuinely content with her life and marriage. The success of her vlogging career was supported by Christopher's stable income from CB Pugh Enterprises, his custom home construction business, creating what appeared to be an ideal partnership where both could pursue their professional passions. Christopher had also established the Pugh Builders General Contractors Academy to help others start their own construction-based businesses as licensed general contractors. This expansion of his business interests suggested someone who was forward-thinking and successful enough to invest in teaching others, further reinforcing the image of a thriving entrepreneur who had achieved both professional and personal success. Marion Shaw, Teresa's family member, painted a picture of a husband who was completely devoted to his wife's happiness and well-being. He adored her. Whatever Renee wanted, Chris would give it to her, Shaw observed, using what was apparently Teresa's nickname within the family. This description suggests a man who prioritized his wife's needs and desires above his own. The couple's relationship appeared so stable that family members never suspected any underlying issues.
I and Chris agree that we wanted to do a topic that's really dear to our heart. And it's a little bit difficult to do, but I think it's just necessary because, and we're dedicating it, and I think we're doing it now, to basically dedicate it to our son that has passed, Adrian Adams. He passed April 13, 2020, and it's a video that really touched my heart. I don't know, it was just dropped on my heart too. So we figured it would be a great time to do it in dedication to him, hoping that it will help somebody. You may not need it. I hope you don't need it. God knows I hope you don't need it. But if you know somebody that does need it, pass it on.
There were no whispered concerns about arguments, no worried conversations about the state of their marriage, and no red flags that would later make family members look back and think they should have seen the warning signs. Christopher's demeanor with the extended family, particularly with Teresa's grandchildren, further reinforced the image of a gentle, caring man. Teresa's granddaughter, Dania Adams Smith, specifically noted that my pawpaw never yelled at us. There's no way we could have suspected this. He wasn't violent at all. This observation from a family member who had regular contact with Christopher provides insight into his typical behavior patterns. The absence of any history of domestic violence made what eventually happened even more incomprehensible to those who knew the couple. Family members explicitly stated they had never witnessed or heard about any incidents of physical or emotional abuse. They didn't even know Christopher owned a firearm, which would prove to be a crucial detail in the tragic events that unfolded. Saturday night, March 23, 2025, began like any other evening in the Pugh household on Cheney Drive. The quiet residential street in the Spring Creek Estates neighborhood was settling into its typical weekend evening routine. At approximately 9:30 p.m., Johnston County's 911 dispatch center received an incoming call that would set in motion a tragic sequence of events. The call was brief. Someone had dialed emergency services, but immediately hung up without speaking to the dispatcher. This type of call, known as a hang-up call, always triggers a callback protocol, as it could indicate someone in distress who was unable to safely communicate their emergency. When the dispatcher called back, Christopher Pugh answered the phone, His response was immediate and seemingly straightforward. He claimed he had not made any call to 911. This denial might have ended the matter under normal circumstances, but the trained dispatcher could hear something in the background that changed everything. Teresa Adams Pugh's voice could be heard in the background, asking her husband why he wanted to kill her and desperately saying, "I need help." The terror and desperation in her voice was unmistakable to the dispatcher, who recognized this as a potential domestic emergency requiring immediate response. The chilling contrast between Christopher's calm denial and Teresa's desperate pleas created a horrifying audio record of a crisis unfolding in real time. Following protocol for potential domestic emergencies, first responders were immediately dispatched to the Cheney Drive address. Johnston County Sheriff's deputies and emergency medical personnel began racing toward the Spring Creek Estates neighborhood, knowing they might be heading into a dangerous situation but hoping they could arrive in time to help. As the first responders approached the house, they heard what no emergency worker ever wants to hear: the sound of gunshots coming from inside the residence. The deputies immediately established a perimeter around the house and called for additional backup, including specialized units trained to handle potential active shooter situations. When Johnston County Sheriff's deputies finally gained safe entry to the Pugh home, they discovered a scene that would haunt the first responders and devastate an entire extended family. Both Teresa Adams Pugh and Christopher Pugh were found dead from gunshot wounds, their 20-year marriage having ended in the most violent way imaginable. The physical evidence at the scene told a story of domestic violence that escalated to murder-suicide. Investigators determined that Christopher had shot Teresa before turning the gun on himself. The weapon used in the shooting was found at the scene, and ballistics analysis would later confirm the sequence of events. For Teresa's online community, who had followed her fashion vlogs and lifestyle content, the news would come as a devastating shock. Her viewers had seen her just as her family had, as a vibrant, happy woman who seemed to have found the perfect balance between family life and her creative pursuits. The woman who had shared fashion tips and glimpses of her seemingly happy home life was gone, killed by the very husband who had appeared supportive of her vlogging career. For the responding deputies, this scene represented another tragic example of domestic violence that escalated beyond anyone's ability to intervene. Despite their quick response to the 911 call, the violence had already reached its fatal conclusion. The frustration of arriving too late to save lives is something that weighs heavily on first responders who dedicate their careers to protecting others. The crime scene investigation required hours of meticulous documentation. Every piece of physical evidence had to be photographed, measured, and collected to ensure that investigators could piece together exactly what had happened in the house that night. This process, while necessary for legal and investigative purposes, meant that Teresa and Christopher's bodies remained in the home for hours after their deaths. News of the murder-suicide began to spread through the Spring Creek Estates neighborhood, as police cars and emergency vehicles lined Cheney Drive. Neighbors who had lived peacefully alongside the Pughs for years found themselves confronting the reality that domestic violence had claimed 2 lives just doors away from their own homes. The Johnston County Sheriff's Office launched a comprehensive investigation into the murder-suicide, even though the basic facts of the case appeared straightforward. In cases involving domestic violence fatalities, investigators must examine every aspect of the couple's relationship, financial situation, and recent activities to understand what might have triggered such extreme violence. Investigators interviewed family members, friends, neighbors, and anyone who had recent contact with either Teresa or Christopher. The consistent message from these interviews was complete shock and disbelief. No one could provide information about any recent arguments, financial stress, health problems, or other issues that might have been building toward violence. The investigation also extended to Teresa's online presence and vlogging community. Detectives reviewed her recent videos and social media posts, looking for any signs of distress, changes in her demeanor, or subtle calls for help that might not have been apparent to casual viewers. Her content remained consistently positive and upbeat right up until her death, showing no obvious signs of fear or unhappiness. Christopher's construction and real estate business, CB Pugh Enterprises, was also examined as part of the investigation. Investigators looked into his recent construction projects, business partnerships, and financial dealings to determine if professional stress or business problems might have contributed to his actions. They examined whether Pugh Builders was thriving or facing challenges that might have created pressure in his personal life, particularly given that the custom home construction industry can be affected by economic fluctuations and market conditions. The absence of any prior police calls to the Pugh residence was notable. Many domestic violence situations involve multiple police responses over time, creating a paper trail that investigators can follow to understand the escalation pattern. In this case, there was no such history, making Christopher's actions appear to come completely out of nowhere. Financial records were examined to determine if money problems might have been a contributing factor. Investigators looked at bank accounts, credit reports, mortgage payments, and other financial obligations to see if the couple was facing economic pressures that family members might not have known about. The couple's social media presence was also scrutinized for any clues about their relationship dynamic. Teresa's posts, which family members described as consistently positive about her marriage, were reviewed to see if there were any subtle signs of distress or changes in her posting patterns that might indicate growing problems at home. Christopher's background was thoroughly investigated, including any history of violence, substance abuse, legal problems, or mental health issues. The investigation revealed no prior incidents of domestic violence, no criminal history of significance, and no obvious red flags that would have predicted such extreme violence. The news of Teresa Adams Pugh's death sent shockwaves through multiple communities. Her extended family network, her online following who had connected with her through her fashion vlogs, and the local real estate community where Christopher had built his career as a developer. For her 4 children, the loss of their mother in such violent circumstances represented not just grief, but complete bewilderment about how their stepfather could have committed such an act. Teresa's fashion vlogging had made her a public figure in some circles, which meant her children had to navigate their private grief while knowing that their mother's death would be discussed publicly by people who felt they knew her through her online content. Teresa's 14 grandchildren, ranging from young children to young adults like Dania Adams Smith, had to grapple with losing the grandmother who had been such a central figure in their lives. Some of these grandchildren had appeared in Teresa's vlogs or had been mentioned in her content, making their loss feel even more profound to her online community who had watched them grow up through her videos. Teresa's online community of viewers and fellow content creators mourned the loss of someone they had welcomed into their homes through her fashion and lifestyle videos. Comments and tributes poured in from people who had never met Teresa in person, but felt a genuine connection to her through her authentic and engaging content. Marion Shaw, speaking for the family, struggled to reconcile the Christopher Pugh she had known with the man who had killed her daughter. He adored her. Whatever Renee wanted, Chris would give it to her, Shaw said, highlighting the complete disconnect between Christopher's previous behavior and his final violent act. The family's repeated emphasis on Christopher's gentle nature with the grandchildren made the tragedy even more difficult to process. Dania Adams Smith's observation that "my pawpaw never yelled at us" painted a picture of a man who had successfully hidden whatever darkness eventually consumed him. Teresa's cousin, Josette Battlegoings, found herself reviewing their recent social media interactions, looking for signs she might have missed. Anytime she posted on them, it was nothing but good things, Goings recalled, emphasizing how Teresa's online presence had never hinted at any marital problems. For the Johnston County Sheriff's deputies and emergency responders who had heard Teresa's pleas for help during that final 911 call, the case represented a particularly haunting reminder of domestic violence's unpredictable nature. Despite their rapid response, they had been unable to save Teresa's life, a reality that weighs heavily on first responders. The Teresa Adams Pugh case illustrates one of domestic violence's most disturbing characteristics, its ability to remain completely hidden from family, friends, and neighbors until it explodes into fatal violence. Domestic violence experts recognize that some abusers are particularly skilled at maintaining public personas that completely contradict their private behavior. Christopher Pugh's ability to present himself as a loving husband and gentle grandfather, while simultaneously planning or impulsively committing murder, demonstrates the complex psychology of domestic abusers. Some perpetrators compartmentalize their behavior so effectively that even those closest to them remain completely unaware of the abuse occurring within the relationship. The absence of previous police calls to the Pugh home doesn't necessarily mean there was no prior abuse. Many victims of domestic violence never call police, either because they fear escalation, don't believe authorities can help, or have been convinced by their abuser that no one would believe them. Teresa may have endured psychological, emotional, or even physical abuse that never came to public attention. Financial control is another form of domestic abuse that can remain invisible to outside observers. While Christopher's success as the owner of CB Pugh Enterprises provided apparent financial stability, it's possible that he maintained control over family finances in ways that created stress or fear for Teresa, without being apparent to their extended family or her online audience. Teresa's work as a fashion vlogger might have actually provided Christopher with additional opportunities for control that wouldn't have been apparent to her viewers. He could have monitored her online interactions, controlled her access to equipment or resources needed for content creation, or influenced what she shared about their personal life without her audience being aware of this manipulation. The isolation that many domestic violence victims experience can be subtle and gradual. An abuser might slowly limit their partner's social interactions, monitor their communications, or create an environment where the victim feels unable to confide in family or friends about problems in the relationship. Psychological abuse can be particularly devastating while remaining completely hidden from others. Threats, intimidation, manipulation, and emotional control can create a climate of fear that never manifests in visible injuries or obvious distress when the victim is around others. The fact that family members described Christopher as someone who adored Teresa and would give her anything she wanted might actually reflect a form of control disguised as generosity. Some abusers maintain control by making their partners financially dependent, while appearing to be generous providers. The Teresa Adams Pugh case highlights several important lessons about domestic violence prevention and recognition. The most significant lesson is that domestic violence can remain completely hidden even in long-term relationships where both partners appear successful in their respective careers. Teresa as a fashion vlogger and Christopher as the owner of CB Pugh Enterprises, a custom home construction company. Family members and friends should be aware that professional success and public visibility don't prevent someone from becoming a victim of domestic violence. Teresa's work as a content creator meant she was regularly sharing aspects of her life online, yet even this level of visibility wasn't enough to reveal any signs of abuse or to prevent the tragedy that ultimately occurred. The case also demonstrates how financial success can potentially mask or enable controlling behavior. Christopher's career as the owner of a successful construction company provided the couple with financial stability, but this same financial success might have created dependency relationships that weren't apparent to outside observers, including Teresa's online audience who saw only the positive aspects of their lifestyle. The importance of taking any domestic disturbance seriously is illustrated by the 911 call that preceded the shooting. When Teresa was heard calling for help in the background of Christopher's denial, the dispatcher correctly recognized this as a potential emergency requiring immediate response. Education about domestic violence warning signs should include information about controlling behavior that might appear generous or protective to outsiders. An abuser who gives his wife anything she wants might actually be maintaining control through financial manipulation or by creating dependency. The case also demonstrates the importance of emergency response protocols that prioritize victim safety even when the caller denies needing help. The dispatcher's decision to send responders despite Christopher's denial potentially gave Teresa her best chance for survival, even though ultimately the response wasn't in time. Mental health awareness and accessible treatment options might play a role in preventing some domestic violence cases. While there's no indication that Christopher had sought or needed mental health treatment, ensuring that such services are available and free from stigma could potentially help other at-risk individuals. Gun safety and domestic violence intersect in this case, as family members were unaware that Christopher possessed a firearm. Laws requiring safe storage of weapons and background checks that include domestic violence history can potentially prevent some intimate partner homicides. The murder of Teresa Adams Pugh represents one of domestic violence's most tragic characteristics: its ability to destroy lives suddenly and without warning. Even in relationships where both partners appear successful and happy to everyone around them, Teresa's death at age 54 cut short a life dedicated to family, love, and bringing joy to others both in person and through her online content. Teresa's role as the life of the party for her extended family, her success as a fashion vlogger, her pride in her grandchildren's achievements, and her apparent happiness in her marriage make her violent death all the more heartbreaking. She was a woman who had built a legacy of love and support for multiple generations, while also creating content that brought inspiration and joy to people she never met in person. Christopher Pugh's actions remain incomprehensible to those who knew him as a successful owner of CB Pugh Enterprises, gentle family man, and supportive husband who seemed to encourage Teresa's creative pursuits. His ability to maintain this public persona as both a thriving custom home construction business owner and devoted spouse, while planning or impulsively committing murder, demonstrates the complex and often hidden nature of domestic violence, even among apparently successful couples. For Teresa's online community who had followed her fashion vlogs and felt a personal connection to her through her content, her death represents not just the loss of a content creator they enjoyed, but the devastating realization that someone they felt they knew could be suffering in ways that were completely invisible to her audience. The case also highlights the importance of supporting domestic violence prevention programs, ensuring that emergency response systems are equipped to handle domestic disturbance calls effectively, and maintaining awareness that abuse can remain hidden even from those closest to the victim, including online communities that feel connected to content creators. Teresa Adams Pugh's memory deserves to be honored not just as a victim of domestic violence, but as a woman who brought love, joy, and and stability to her family for 54 years, and who shared her passion for fashion and lifestyle with an online community that genuinely cared about her. Her legacy should include not only grief for her tragic death, but celebration of the positive impact she had on so many lives throughout her time on Earth. The questions surrounding why Christopher Pugh committed such violence may never be fully answered. But Teresa's life, as a devoted mother, proud grandmother, beloved family member, and engaging content creator, represents the human cost of domestic violence and the irreplaceable loss that such violence creates for families and communities both online and offline. In remembering Teresa Adams Pugh, we honor not just her memory, but our commitment to recognizing, preventing, and responding to domestic violence in all its forms, even when it hides behind a facade of professional success and a perfect marriage. Before you go, if this case has impacted you or made you think about the hidden dynamics and relationships around you, please take a moment to like this video and subscribe to True Crime Red Flag. Your engagement helps us continue bringing you these important stories that examine the warning signs we often miss. Hit that notification bell so you never miss an upload. And let me know in the comments below what red flags you think we should be more aware of in cases like this. Share this video with others who are interested in understanding the complexities of domestic violence and true crime. Together, we can raise awareness about these critical issues and potentially help someone recognize warning signs in their own life or the lives of people they care about. Thank you for watching True Crime Red Flag. Until next time, stay aware, stay safe, and remember, the red flags are often there, even when we can't see them.